time to introduce our first guest. Rami Zeidan is the founder and CEO of Lifehouse, a Silicon Valley-backed, vertically integrated lifestyle hotel company, which innovates across all touchpoints to offer a high-end boutique hotel experience at a lower price for travelers, and makes hotels more profitable for hotel owners. Prior to Lifehouse, Rami worked in real estate-related investments at TPG Capital, worked for the Seidel Group, the boutique hotel developer, owner, and operator, was active in acquisitions, hotel asset management, and brand management at Starwood Group, and started his career in the real estate special situations group at Deutsche Bank. Rami, welcome to Now and Next. It's really interesting to see your background. It looks like your whole prior career was there really designed to kind of prepare you for founding the business you founded. In your own words, what is Lifehouse and where did you get the inspiration?
Sure. Thanks for having me, JP. So to your point, I was in the real estate ownership side of the hotel business for quite some time and got to see the multifaceted business that exists, from the real estate to the hotel operations to the brand to the technology that underlies the operation itself. It's a complex ecosystem, and I was fortunate to touch those components of the ecosystem to come up with a holistic solution to that equation that is really software driven. And so our vision is to create the optimal hotel operation and build a technology architecture and platform that empowers the best hotel operations out there. And in order to do that, you simply can't go to a hotel brand and say, change the way you operate, try to use our technology. We've taken the approach of owning the vertical experience so that we can build the technology, implement it, prove ourselves, and then market the technology to the world, and solve a problem both for travelers and for hotel owners and eventually for hotel operators as well. And so that's the fundamental premise, as you articulated, to make hotels more easy to own and operate and more profitable to own and operate, as well as to make the traveler experience more meaningful and more accessible.
And you mentioned technology, and you're often described as a hospitality tech darling. What is the role of technology, both in your business model, but also in the consumer experience, the guest experience?
Yeah, I think it's important to, I think a lot of times the question of, are you a tech company or are you a hotel company or are you a real estate company comes up. And I don't love the question because I think you need to be articulate and an expert in both the product and the tech. And I think it's hard to characterize ourselves as one or the other. We care deeply about the guest experience and the hospitality. I said, we're encouraged to make the hotel traveler experience more meaningful, which is predicated on human interaction and authentic, locally rooted experiences. And technology is used to empower that by automating components of the hotel operation that allow the price of a hotel experience to be lower. And so we've automated things in a hotel operation from finance and accounting to pricing, some HR and admin functions. And not only does that reduce the cost structure, but it actually helps the on-property staff that we still have to focus exclusively on the guest experience instead of, to your point, being involved in the transaction. And then on the guest itself, I think there's been a lot of talk about how do we, build software that improves the guest experience on property, whether that be a mobile app or some hardware in the room. We've been focused on the meaningful component of travel, which to us is human interaction. And so it's empowering guests to do all the administrative stuff, to your point, whether that be transactional or otherwise, a lot easier. So whether that be an Apple TV application that allows guests to quickly connect their streaming services, or SMS even to order room service or communicate with the hotel, and to automated logic for VIP guests so that room upgrades and VIP treatment is done without the need for someone at the front desk to think if it's worthwhile. And so automating logic and building the entire ecosystem of technology has kind of been what we're focused on.
Okay. And clearly, recently, the whole industry, travel and hospitality industry, has been heavily impacted. I guess at the same time, we've all been cooped up, working from home, and been looking for an escape. How has the pandemic been for you? How have you managed through it?
Yeah, it actually has catalyzed, I think in one component, it's catalyzed adoption of technology, both by travelers and hotel owners. I think we were somewhat of a first mover in elements of a quote unquote kiosk check-in or a mobile app, keyless entry. A year ago, you wouldn't have thought that restaurants would be ordering or viewing menus via QR code. I think the pandemic has catalyzed adoption of really functional use of technology. And for us specifically, we're both a brand and a management company and a software company. We've been focused on growing our software platform and our management platform that's powered by our software. Just yesterday, we announced a big partnership with Kayak, where we're continuing to grow and build what we're calling an accommodations operating system that helps hotel owners and operators select a singular technology stack for their entire hotel, as opposed to having to pick many different products. So we've been focused on increasing our kind of white label management platform and helping hotel owners who have become aware that their operations team perhaps was asleep at the wheel, but rising revenue and rising travel demand helped their hotel perform well. And now they've become aware that, wow, the cost structure of our hotel doesn't make any sense, and I need somebody different. And so that's where we've been focused, and we've grown our portfolio in that way over the pandemic.
And what was the biggest challenge in the pandemic for you?
I think the biggest challenge was, of course, the drop in travel demand and the uncertainty. I think our customers are both travelers, of course, but also hotel owners. And in the face of uncertainty, hotel owners are somewhat paralyzed to make decisions. I think hotel transaction volume was down 80% this year. And of course, dealing with the challenges that hotel owners are facing and trying to come up with solutions for them. Challenging for sure, interesting nonetheless. And also keeping the morale high of a hardworking team in the face of a travel pandemic. But we've come a long way, and we're really excited about the future.
And talking about the future, what's your expectation for how the recovery will shape up?
Well, leisure demand is in certain locations is kind of back on par. We had hotels in Nantucket in the Northeast and kind of resort destinations that were actually pretty flat year over year. In the luxury segment as well, we've seen pretty flat year over year demand. I think the biggest challenges are those urban hotels where business demand was a big component, and international travel demand was a big component of the demand. But I think it's going to be very candidly, a few years to recover to 2019 levels. I don't think it will be magically back in order when the vaccine has been widely distributed. I think this conversation happening over the internet, over video call, has really catalyzed the adoption of Zoom as a really efficient means for business folks to conduct meetings remotely without the need for travel. So I'm pretty excited about how that will change the business travel segment. And we've been really focused on the leisure segment. And so I think that'll change, the landscape will change there.
And so you're a bit less exposed, I guess, to it than others who focus more on business travel. Has the pandemic led you to change your strategy in any way, or is it just kind of slowed things down a bit?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we've been really focused on our software as a solution, as opposed to our brand as a solution. So our white label management platform has grown 200% this year, whereas our brand has been less than 35%. And so it's escalated and changed our long-term roadmap to focus on the software and the management as well. And then it's also catalyzed some feature development. So right away, we added components of the check-in experience for, opting in for certain services, whether that be, defaulting or the option to select housekeeping if you want a housekeeper in your room, obviously increasing cleaning protocols of the properties, et cetera, et cetera. We also, several months ago, introduced, with the rise of at-home workouts and at-home fitness programs, we launched a custom Apple TV product where guests can arrive in their room and quickly select from a number of pre-recorded on-brand fitness exercises that were actually recorded by either a famous yoga or fitness studio inside that exact room. So the exercises are perfectly curated to that experience. And that's been a huge hit amongst our guests in the absence of, group fitness classes and the like. So we've tried to adapt both to the consumer demand and I think it's catalyzed our technology roadmap.
Perfect. And actually, we've got a question coming in from the audience, which I'll ask straight away. So, Rami, on a personal level, what is most important to you when deciding to stay at a hotel property other than your own?
Yes. Well, for me, I run a startup, so my utility is derived largely from how efficient it is to get in and out and work comfortably from my hotel room or from the lobby. We tried to design Lifehouse through that lens and through that bias, which I don't think is that uncommon. I think there's been a rise in how at least millennials view the attachment to their work. And so people want to be connected to their work as they travel. Obviously, freelance travel has grown. And so we try to design a hotel that allows our guests to seamlessly, arrive, check in, get into their room, have a place to work in the public areas, have a place to work in the lobby and in their guest room. It's great internet and obviously access to coffee, et cetera. A place to take meetings, and of course at night a place to connect with the local crowd through kind of a locally rooted food and beverage experience. And so that came through my own biases. And so those things are important to me. I like to travel and feel really connected and feel like I belong to a place as opposed to just passing through. And I don't like to spend a lot of time figuring out what to do whilst I'm there or where is the best cafe to work out of, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's how we've designed Lifehouse.
Perfect. Well, listen, I can't wait to stay in one of your properties because just looking at them on the website they're super inviting and appealing. So a big theme today is changes in customer behavior. There's a lot of kind of new self-service type experiences in hospitality that have really gone mainstream, from kind of scanning a QR code, pay at table, pre-order, self-check-in. And I think a lot of people are wondering kind of what will revert back to normal, what will stay, and how will that pan out? Do you have any views on that?
I do. I think, a lot of the folks in the hotel industry have been talking about, well, we cut all the staff. We cut our bellmans, we cut our concierge, we reduced housekeeping, and we cut a lot of middle management. And that has a material impact on the guest experience. I think guests today are very forgiving of those sacrifices because they just want to travel. And, oh, I'm not going to judge the hotel because they abandoned their mini bar. They're suffering through COVID, and I'll tolerate that. I think when things revert back to normal, folks will still pay more for premium experiences. I think mini bars are a convenient, great experience for guests. I think human interaction in the hotel and true hospitality has value. And so instead of for us, we focused on automating the back office components, finance, accounting, revenue management, et cetera, and haven't really focused on automating front office things that add value to the guest experience. Our many bars are still intact. And our front office staff are just as prevalent as before because they weren't a huge cost prior. And so I do think there will be a reversion back to what guests want, and there is ROI to adding certain components of that. Unless you build a sustainable solution of getting rid of costs that don't add ROI to a guest experience, I don't think there's a sustainable cost-cutting exercise to be had. Perhaps bellmen, are a dubious ROI. Perhaps certain middle management positions have dubious ROI. But I think it comes down to ROI to the guest experience. And I think the brands and products that will win are those that deliver the best experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you have any advice for businesses for how they can prepare for an event or a shock like the pandemic?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think we were even prepared per se. I think it was somewhat of a black swan event. I think that what I would advise as it relates to technology is there's a lot of complexity. I've seen a lot of hotel companies, at least, start to invest without being informed or educated on how software works. And I would suggest not investing into technology internally and rather leverage great technology that exists or platforms that leverage great technology. I've seen a lot of companies, invest in building a product and then letting it sit. And the key to great software is build a product and quickly iterate and be agile in how that product evolves. You can't just be a first mover. You have to be innovating faster than any other movers. And so the way I envision the future kind of going is focusing folks and businesses focusing on what they do best. You've seen brands focus on being brands instead of operators and brands. A lot of brands have no business being hotel operators, for example, and that's where we come in. There are great brands out there that should exist, but they shouldn't exist and also be hotel management companies. And so we've seen a lot of focusing on what the expertise is. And I would suggest that I think that it's wise to focus on where you're an expert and try to leverage support from where you're not.
Definitely. Well, we would definitely second that. In all of that, what do you view as an excellent payment experience in a hotel or restaurant?
Yeah, I think piggybacking on what I said earlier, a payment experience, the efficiency is a big pillar there. I think people, particularly in a restaurant, want to interact with their friends, interact with their guests, not spend time calculating a tip or having a conversation about can I get the bill or not. And to me, I think payment is not a great value add experience to any sort of hospitality experience. So the more efficient, the better. And I think that translates also to hotels. I think, Hotel Tonight was an innovator and a very seamless booking experience. to your point, the hotel booking journey is arduous and complex. Payments in that experience don't need to be. Why isn't there Google Pay option for hotels across the board, and the like, or even Apple Pay in a hotel? And so I think that a lot of the innovation should be oriented around how to make the payment experience more efficient and faster.
Yeah, we definitely agree with that. It's. I think the experience that I still have every time I step out of an Uber, I have this little thought of, oh, I've already paid. That was easy, and I still have that feeling, and that's also our vision. Payments should be as invisible and smooth as possible. We've got another question from the floor. From Anna. What are surprising guest behaviors you've seen that you weren't expecting, good or bad?
I assume that's related to the pandemic. Candidly, maybe it's a self-selecting group, but we've found that most of our guests are pretty, regardless of their political views, are pretty comfortable in social environments. We've had guests, ask if they can take their masks off. Most of our guests have asked to have daily housekeeping and people in their room. And the public spaces, at least the outdoor public spaces, tend to get pretty populated. Our hotel in Miami, for example, is a different animal, and it doesn't really feel like COVID exists there, other than the masks that prevail through the public areas. So I think it's a self-selecting group of people that are traveling and less maybe fearful than others. I think other surprising guests experience, so to answer that question of whether it's good or bad, I think the responsibility we have is to ensure that people are abiding by the experts and the CDC's policies, which we are obviously in full compliance with. I think that the other behaviors that we've seen have been, actually demand to travel. Miami, as everyone's heard, the leisure demand there has been much higher from a domestic traveler than normal, but of course much lower than from an international traveler. And Miami's pretty heavily reliant on international travelers, so that hotel market is still getting hit pretty hard. And then obviously the drive-to markets. We have a luxury hotel in New England that's $1,600 a night usually, and this year it's been $2,500 a night on average. And the price elasticity in the luxury segment, we've seen that consumers are not necessarily at that price point that sensitive. And I think COVID has catalyzed people to spend more on getting out of their house and trying new things. And I think some of those trends will continue. I think people have appreciated the value in a longer term stay. Working remotely is not just a fun weekend activity, but a couple of week activity. So I'll be curious to see how that trend evolves as COVID kind of dissipates.
Great, thank you. We've got another question from the floor. What is a good website for Lifehouse to investigate their offerings further? So I'm assuming not so much the hotel side, but more the hotel management side.
I'm not sure to learn more about us?
Yeah.
We have our white label management website, life-hospitality.com. Life Hospitality is our current working name for our white label management. But if you reach out to us on our Lifehouse Hotel owners portal, there's a drop down as well, and we'll get the same team working on it.
Perfect. Well, Jeff, there you go. And you have significant expansion plans. You plan to double your portfolio in 2021. How are you approaching your plans to grow?
Yeah, well, actually, just yesterday we had a big announcement. It was covered by the Wall Street Journal and Fortune and Forbes. We have a great partnership with Kayak, the travel meta search site that's owned by Booking Holdings. We're launching the first Kayak branded hotel April 1st in Miami. We have plans to grow with Kayak and really to scale our technology enabled operations platform. And in partnership with Kayak, it should grow pretty smoothly and organically that way.
Great. Well, and then listen, Rami, I want to close off with one question. You started Lifehouse with a clear vision and purpose. When in many years the book on Lifehouse is written, how do you define success?
Maybe an unusual answer, but I would say fundamentally our mission has been to make travel more meaningful and more accessible. We think about travel as a social good that helps people develop a better sense of their belonging in the universe and everyone else's, and that accessibility, that experience is key to having that permeate through the world. Having hotel owners be able to own hotels more profitably and more seamlessly. And I think success, obviously, of course, as a business owner, making sure that the folks that backed me and our investors are rewarded for believing in our mission and our journey.
Perfect. Listen, thank you very much. We've heard about you reimagining a complex ecosystem. We heard about the adaptability you create powered by IT. I really like what you said about automating the admin, but not the human interactions. And as I said earlier, I can't wait to stay in one of your properties. So Rami, thank you very much for your time and insights.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Rami and JP. It's exciting to see the evolution of modern hospitality, and like so many of us, I can't wait to travel again. Before we take a 10-minute break, here's another poll. What operational focus will your organization continue after the pandemic? Is it a continued shift to digital channels, better in-person customer experiences, or a balance of both? Share your answer in that poll tab on the right side of your screen. Now it's break time, but don't go too far. After the break, we have our panel on retail reinvention featuring Jacob Pat from JXP & Co. and Todd Trions of Brooks Brothers. See you in a bit.